give more incentives for the local players to buy out the tech startups, corporates or whatever it is, to open up the regulatories to give tax incentives or to lower down there are more doors outside in the world to be seen to global players to sell them to other markets. Because if they don't really be seen outside, and they probably will be missing the timing of being acquired. So the timing also matters.
Yeah, I think that's great. Fahd, love to get your take on this.
Actually, I want to maybe answer the question a bit differently, and might take a bit of a half a minute over. So, if I want to say how basically can Saudi involve into basically betraying these VCs and actually doing these exits, I would say one of the great examples of a country is Holland. They were dependent on basically gas, like Saudi was dependent on petrol. So what Holland did is bring international companies from abroad to actually train and enhance the ecosystem that was there in Holland to create the economy for actually these companies to grow and then take them abroad back again to their own countries or basically build a hub. So Saudi, by basically initiatives like PIF or companies like PIF or Munshaat, which is the SMEA authority here in Saudi, can bridge the gap between these startups, SMEs, VCs, I would say, and do co-investment exits together to portray and showcase startups abroad.
Thank you. So one of the things I've seen is that whenever we go into emerging markets, we like to invest in the railroads of the nation, which is investing in fintech companies that allows payments really quickly, supply chain companies that allow logistics, and then telecommunications. So everything gets to be built on top. So next question for you, Rabik, is what advice would you give to VCs looking to capitalize on the next big wave of investment in the global south?
All right. So I suppose that the next big wave of investment in the global south, in a way, will be driven by early validation, first of all, and it has to be also about ecosystem collaboration on one side and strategic market entry also on the other side. For VCs, I imagine that the most crucial part would be at this point, especially in emerging market, collaborating with the right angel investment groups. Why? Because the right angel investment groups would, by investing early on into those potential startups that also the VCs are looking at, it would act like a vetting process in which they validate early whether those startups are working with. So that cooperation between VCs such as 2020 and angel groups, cross-border ones especially, like Keretsu Forum, in that sense, would work particularly well in that direction. And especially when it comes to Saudi Arabia's approach, if one would like to agree with that, it would make sense because Saudi Arabia secured, we just got to know yesterday, they secured 56 billion in just one day. That would very well mean that when you have that sort of financial capital at that stage with that speed, that could very much help on both sides that next big wave of investments to become drivers.
Great, thanks Robert.
So I hope this was short enough this time.
Sorry?
It was short enough this time.
Short, perfect.
Okay, thank you.
So next question is for Hamlet. How can Saudi Arabia's ecosystem attract Asian startups and corporations?
I think the ecosystem here in Saudi and the government has done a very great job in attracting foreign investments and also attracting a lot of innovations from different parts of the world. Some of the initiatives that they have done is around 100% foreign ownership, as much as also prioritize the most promising startups in Saudi Arabia to expand and help them grow outside of Saudi. But also not only that, this also helps with working with different accelerators like us and you guys, where they can improve the local component as much as they also invest in the international component. So bringing in startups, leveraging your network and your networks in attracting those startups as well. A lot of incentives being available for foreign investors in Saudi, be it tax incentives as well as subsidizing some salaries for your employees and whatnot. Government backing is definitely something that we all love, and we're doing an amazing job with that. And I think having a focus on this Asian part of the world, look at China, for example. The largest number of unicorns outside of the US is in China, Singapore, and I think probably can confirm they have over 26 unicorns. So the innovations coming from this part of the world definitely work for expanding in this part of the world, and the government is very, very supportive in that regards. It's just a matter of understanding where and how and when and who, which is very obvious with Saudi. So we've done a great job in that, and I encourage everyone who's interested to maybe after the
Same question. How can Saudi attract more Asian startups and companies into the region?
Yeah, I mean, Ahmed talked about, covered most of the things, but I think it's basically, whether it's for Asian corporates or whether it's for startups, it should be about helping them to save money, to be cost effective, or to earn money, right? So basically that's the main KPI to attract them. So one, as you mentioned, is tax incentives and all that, but also like investment and business opportunities that should be provided. But the also most important thing that I also want to mention is about cultural flexibility, because I've been in many different countries, but it's my first time visiting Saudi. But I had the cultural shocks. Like as a male, it was first time actually seeing males lining up, going to the restroom. It was kind of and actually in Dubai, I've been to Dubai like 10 years ago. I think it was pretty similar to Saudi at the time, but now it has been changed a lot. For instance, their weekend has been, a bit more westernized, and the flexibility of people mindset, intaking the foreigners, right, was changed a lot. So I hope Saudi also can be more flexible to intaking the other cultures, and for them to be actually wanting them to be in Saudi. Yeah, I think that is the thing that I also wanted to mention.
But I think that's already happening, right? So we see a lot of now in Saudi Arabia, a lot of international founders. We see a lot of investors coming in, and I think it's like Saudi's just starting. And like comparing land mass wise, like Saudi has the room to build amazing infrastructure in terms of manufacturing and everything they're trying to do considering to Dubai. With that said, my question for you, Fuad, is what role can Saudi government and corporates play when it comes to working with VCs and ecosystem builders?
Actually, the Saudi government plays a big role with the VCs and ecosystem builders, and Saudi government through National Transformation Program has created a fund a couple of years back for 2 billion in local content and this local content was divided to go to Saudi venture company, which is one of the Saudi-backed VCs. So they do funds of funds, and that's part of the areas that we can collaborate as a Saudi government with VCs or other entities that want to establish a fund in Saudi. And then being with the accelerators in the ecosystem and joint partnerships between international and local ecosystem, I think can break the bridge between the gap of the culture shocks that can happen. So as an accelerator, having like an entrepreneurship license for companies that want to come from abroad, and we call it FDI. So that entrepreneurship license will bring company here. We will have countries that will introduce their entrepreneurship license for us and companies from Saudi that want to go abroad into accelerators programs. And then basically for accelerators like us to actually join hands and create maybe a unified program that can set global standards with accelerators and incubators across.
Okay, Son, what about you? What do you think?
About what?
About so the question is, what can Saudi government and corporate do to work more with VCs and ecosystem builders?
Yeah. So I think they are doing great already, helping the first founders and backing them, investing in them, helping them to scale up. But also, I think I suggest them to also support the first fund managers, not only the first founders, because it's an ecosystem, and ecosystem is not only for the founders, but it's also for the players like builders, universities, corporates, investors as well. And one of the largest role plays by the investors. So if they are only looking for the established investors, then actually the ecosystem can be a bit stuck with the outdated way of helping founders. Because now in the world, in different countries, the new accelerators actually are providing new services, different way of providing services rather than compared to the traditional ones. And the way how they do it is innovative. And if Saudi help them to be more engaged to the local ecosystem, it can flourish quicker than current developed countries, and to implement the system itself.
Yeah, and I agree with you guys. I think in Saudi Arabia, what we're seeing is like the progress does not stand still. They have the awareness, and it's all part of Vision 2030. With that said, I would like to ask you, Ahmed, and Fawn, can you share some success stories of cross-border collaboration involving Saudi Arabia, and what lessons can you draw from it?
Sure. I mentioned one that pretty much everyone in the room would relate to, and then one that might not. So Alibaba Cloud, I think was one of the success stories of bringing them to the ecosystem here, partnering up with the government, and helping not only SMEs but also enterprises leverage the cloud infrastructure and also be able to grow out of that partnership. And this, the lessons learned differently, strategic partnerships matter on a government level, and it was very articulate with His Excellency Suhaib yesterday in his opening remarks around the partnership with you. So the country is growing, the economy is growing with you as the private sector. So eventually those strategic partnerships definitely matter as much as having this sort of opportunity that someone mentioned where the norms of the bigger projects that are doing Red Sea, etc. So all of that, as much as the different accelerators and incubators around the country, and leverage the infrastructure of similar partnerships. I've also come across a company from Korea. They're doing, actually their office in Korea is the second most sustainable building in the world. And you might not be aware of them, but they're actually very actively working with the government in Riyadh right now, doing a lot of construction, being a sustainable city, etc. So yeah, and many other projects I don't want to mention all of them.
I think to answer the question, I'm not going to add on what Ahmed said, it's like really right key on. But I think to add maybe a couple of names, I'll say Huawei is example with NEOM, building the infrastructure, the IT infrastructure in Saudi and having 5G and out there. I think this is one of the examples of a great partnership that can happen. If I want to take it down from a government level up to a corporate level, I'll say Noon with Amazon being bought by Amazon, Noon is bought. I think these kind of collaboration and as Ahmed said, public-private partnerships is growing within the region, and I think it's setting the standard. So what kind of KPIs you want to build within these partnerships, and the accelerators play a big role in mapping the ecosystem out for these companies and for these startups actually to find the right connection.
Right. So I think that's true, and then one of the things I've seen also is smaller economies such as in Asia and Europe have done a lot better job in terms of getting their brand exposure out there. And with them being smaller economies, I think Saudi Arabia, with being an emerging player, I'm sure we're going to see some global brands coming out of the region. With that said, I would like to ask, if you're looking ahead for Vision 2030, what does success look like for Saudi Arabia in terms of the role that they're playing in the South-South trade, right? So, Robert, this question is for you.
I would say most probably the first thing that Saudi Arabia could do in that direction is very much so facilitate the next generations of unicorns coming out of Southeast Europe, coming out of Southeast Asia. That would be a crucial and very important job. And as I said, not only unicorns, but not only also unicorns, or those that in the language of VCs would be called dragons. So the guys that actually get to have to pay for the rest of the guys who did not make it in the fund. So Saudi Arabia could very much play that role, and I think Saudi Arabia could, in the line of the 2030 perspective and initiative, could very well become the primary gateway when it comes to not only capital and financing, but very much so talent and bridging its talent marker when it comes to this ecosystems between each other. Why? Kind of the sensation that I had in the last 2 days is that talent is a major component that Saudi is looking for, and there seems to be quite a lot of that talent which is looking to flee from Southeast Europe. And when I say Southeast Europe, I mean the next potential sandbox of Europe, since Europe has become so much over-regulated that it's become a little bit of a very nice museum to be at, but in a museum it's very hard to do business. Yeah. So I suppose that they kind of sense Saudi can very much play that role along all the South-South cooperation countries that we mentioned today, Southeast Asia, but why not also South Korea, which, by the way, I've heard that, especially when it comes to 28 ventures, they're looking not only to Saudi, but also join things in Southeast Europe. So welcome both sides for that cooperation. Looking forward to welcoming you in Southeast Europe very, very soon.
I think this reminds me of a funny joke, right? There's a say, America innovates, Asia creates, and Europe regulates. So, I think next question is for you, San. What are the next steps for strengthening cross-border partnerships to unlock innovation at scale?
Yeah. So actually, there are a lot of support that goes directly to the startups, which is supporting accelerators, VCs, venture builders. That because they help directly the startups, right? But actually, there's another component for corporates. So corporates, they are currently in a situation that they cannot innovate and follow the trend of innovation by themselves. Because now there are too many innovative technologies are coming out, right? So they are just busy dominating their own market or own technology that related to their industry. So there's only one way to survive actually for corporates, and a lot of corporates are doing corporate innovation or open innovation. So I've also written a book about open innovation, and did a lot of studies and worked with a lot of Fortune 500 companies. They work with startups, and that component, when we help corporates to do more open innovation, to work with startups, that actually will make startups to make traction and also create more investment opportunities, business opportunities, and also exit opportunities for the startups. So it is very important to help corporates to be more engaged with the startups in order to create more scalable way for the innovation.
Timur, absolutely agree. If I may add something real quick, I promise I'm going to be short. I absolutely agree, and this is what we're also trying to do when it comes, even though we're a little bit earlier stage of Kiretsu, but still also corporates in Southeast Europe are pretty earlier stages than compared to South Korea, for example. We are starting now a process in which we're going back to corporates and we're actually asking, what is your pain points? What do you need?
Exactly, and creating hackathons, creathons.
Yes, that would be one of the solutions, but generally speaking, going the other way around. Rather than trying to shove that solution that the startup has down their throats and saying, listen, get this startup, invest into the startup, we go the other way around. And this is working very well. So absolutely agree with Sam.
Good point.
Great, I agree. I think one thing that you touched on is like we've seen within S&P 500 within 10 years a lot of the companies disappear, and there was a huge influx of these corporate-based accelerators that came out, and I think 90% of them failed. Right. So one of the things that we look at is there's a funny conversation I was having, and we're trying to get programs from corporates. And we realized that these programs are not good. And towards that, somebody told me, but the problem is they don't think they're not good. With that said, thank you so much, guys, for coming here. I would like to thank my amazing panelists for being here. Thank you for answering these questions, and thank you, the audience. Right, without you, this would not be possible. I would like to now take this time. If you guys haven't had the chance to get the swag, please get the swag. We'd like to invite everybody up on stage to take pictures. It will be good to have you as a memory. So please don't be shy. I have some up here, so come on over, everyone. I'll put this background as a step of the feet.
Hey guys, we should have a selfie. We should have a selfie.